Okay, here we are again, like March 10th today, maybe March 11th, I don't know, March 12th. The days run together. I mean, I come here and do this. I go buy groceries. I go home, feed the cats. That's what I do. I wanted to just take a moment and say, if you're doing anything with Hardyplank, I'm finding this is one hell of a cutter. This snapper type cutter. What is the brand of this one? Now you can probably read it. I don't have my close-up glasses with me. I have found though, once I make a measurement, I like to lay my table out. I'll just show you what I've got. In case you're thinking of doing this, I lay my table out with several 2x4s perpendicular. The reason being is so that I can cut this anywhere, because this needs this much clear. It needs quite a bit of clearance underneath to cut. As you can see it, you know, it's doing that kind of a thing. So what's really nice about this is I just pick a spot and I'll just move these 2x4s around to give myself a pathway, and it works great. Another thing I do, it just takes a second, is I clamp this down before I make a cut, and I went ahead and clamp this in place. It takes me 10 seconds to do that, if even that. But it allows me to use, and by the way, at some point, and it doesn't matter what side I've drawn it on, as long as I'm holding it so the whole thing doesn't move. But I will make my line either way, and then I'll follow my line really carefully. I'll use both hands to follow my line, go really slow. It works extremely well. The only other thing that I've found about this, which makes a lot of sense, is that now my sister and her husband painted all these. These have all been painted. But you can see there's a top and a bottom here. And if you look, here's the top, here's the bottom. They painted around the bottom, you know, just because this is maybe where they might encounter moisture. Anyway, so I start at the bottom and I cut to the top. The reason that I do that is because these, I don't think I've got a good example of that, but as you're cutting through the top tends to want to kind of break. You know, the edges will round just a little bit. Now maybe that's because this cutter is a little bit dull. Maybe not. It's no big deal, because this gets covered anyway. This is overlapped by about 1.5 inches. Actually, I'm overlapping about 1 inch, a little less than 1.25 inches. Just barely over where I put the screws in. But the whole point of this is that with that gun, get used to it, it will cut beautifully. And I can inset cut too. Like, I'll say if I've got a fitting, like say a window or whatever. Window would obviously be wider, but if I have this square in here, let's just draw an imaginary. So if I got the square I need to cut out, I'll bring the gun in and I'll come up at an angle and do a couple cuts like that, and then I'll just kind of snap that off. I'll stop early. You have to watch where you're at. Then I'll make room for that gun, and then at some point, I'm calling it a gun, I can angle this in pretty close to my line and get right on my line, and then I'll come back and clean it up. And I've noticed that if you cut close but not perfectly, you can clean your line up a little bit, but that's difficult. It's better to cut it right rather than a tiny bit big, because it's really annoying. I found the best thing for me to do, if I have a little piece, well, by the way, there's an example of what happens, you know, when you make this cut. At the end of the cut, it'll kind of chunk out that edge. But that, like I said, is hidden. It doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt. It doesn't hurt the tile. The tile? It doesn't hurt. It's like tile. It doesn't hurt the siding at all. Anyway, but I'm sold on that. I love this. I love this connection. Just having this held allows you to hold two hands and make your cut. You can be really accurate with it. There's another thing that this does. Let's see if I can describe this to you. As you're making the cut, right, here's a remnant of that. And it comes out like this, and it comes out kind of like so, and it rolls over the top. You know, it's a big circle, right? And what happens is it obstructs your view as you're cutting, because here you are cutting, looking down at this thing, and then this thing comes up and covers it. So if I'm using two hands, I kind of grab it up here with one hand and, you know, hold the handle with the other hand, but I'll keep some of my hand up here just to sort of push that trim piece away. Now, I suppose if I really got picky, I could actually make a wire that would just push that out to one side or the other. And, you know, I might do something like that. I mean, if down the road, if I decided I wanted to do this for a living. But I probably don't want to do this for a living. Anyway, just a couple minutes on the Hardyplank. It's really cool stuff. Let me show you what I got going on. Let's see if this. Now I don't have my gimbal. The gimbal is just such a pain, so I'm going to try my best to just keep this smooth. The snow is going away. It's looking much better. By the way, those marks on the concrete, that's where I knock the rough edges off of the short pieces of Hardyplank. If they're a little bit too long, I just sand them off of there. So you can see I've done a few of them. That works the best of all. But anyway, let me show you what we have going on here. Today's a windy day. Another storm is blowing in. We're going to get snow tonight and snow tomorrow, so we're told. Half an inch tonight and a couple inches tomorrow. So the bottom floor underneath that roof is done. The upper section is done, looking real good. I can actually do that now that I'm not running the gimbal. So I'm happy with that. I'm getting started over here. Let's back this out. Let me walk carefully. Trying to be a good cameraman. That is one of the things I've never done. Now, I reset the scaffolding, took most of it down when I was finished over that little roof, but left this one piece because I still have work to do here. So I've got this area started, and my intention here is I'm going to get everything up to that level. That's the level that I can reach with that little ladder. The idea is that once I get it up to that level, then I'll build my scaffolding in here and I'll move up from there. What I found is that working with the scaffolding in the way does slow me down quite a bit. So I don't have to put the scaffolding all the way up. I can do it in sections. And at the end of the day, it's going to work just fine. So I'll put the section up, one section up. I'll finish my siding. I'll put another section up, and then I'll put the insulation, the house wrap, and whatever needs to be fixed from, you know, from an age of being exposed. Anyway, that's all looking pretty good. Now I decided the way that I'm putting these little embellishments on, I want these to be flat, so I am actually putting this piece on underneath this piece, and it's working really well. And then I'll come back through and I'll do something about this little corner. I'm not sure what I want to do with it. I might glue a piece of trim there, using caulking, or, you know, just glue a piece of trim to close that off, and then we can paint it. That would look really nice. But anyway, that's the way that I'm supposed to finish these windows, as per the people that I'm doing this for. So, and then I'll just go back over this real fast, because look, the area is a little bit cleaner. You can see that this is a congested spot to work in, and I still think about the guy that commented that this place was like really super dirty. Well, it has its problems. This branch fell down last fall. It broke, it cracked, and so right as the snow started, the snow probably made it happen, we ended up with that big pile of stuff here. And so it's just, you know, using scaffolding too, you just have stuff everywhere. Scaffolding is an extremely labor intensive and space hogging thing. But anyway, that's all looking pretty good. I'm happy with everything at this point. I'm glad to see the snow's going away. I'm glad that I can actually walk on this area. Let me back this up. And we're starting to get a little bit of melting, but I'm putting boards down under this mud. I made a misstep a couple days ago right there, and I had like 10 pounds of mud stuck on my shoe. But I still have basically a little bit of a swamp right here. I can walk around the edges of it, but there's this ice that's just in the way, and I mean, that just comes off that whole panel roof and lands right there. But I'll work my way around it. Probably in a week or two, that's going to be a lot smaller or maybe even gone. So I'm happy about that. Also, my sister has been up here cleaning, and it's looking really nice up here. It got pretty nasty. Had birds in here. Had birds trying to get in here. I had to use more expanding foam to cover that area up. So I'm hoping to keep the birds out. I like the birds, I just don't want them in here. So what I wanted to show you was I took some pictures of this on the last video that I put out, but I didn't really show you what was going on. Here we go. So if you see that hole there, that goes out to behind the siding. And those holes are up high enough that they'll be above the level of the insulation. Did I get this right? There we go. Let me back that back down. Anyway, the point of those holes is that vents the siding. Now, I mean, that siding is going to get hot, whatever, but the siding will vent up into the attic, and the attic will be vented also, so we'll be able to pull the heat out of the house and out of the siding off the walls that way. And that's to code anyway. It'll keep things dry. I also did the same thing here and here, and then up here where I've got the foam, all I need to do is cut that foam away, and that will vent up into the top. So I'll just need to leave enough area when I insulate that airflow can actually get up through here and move through here. I'll probably put a vent. This is the west side of the house over to our left. I'll probably put a vent up here where right now I just have lumber wrap covering that hole up. It did a pretty good job. And I'll probably also put a vent over here. This is where Andy has put access to this roof. Now, personally, I don't like having to climb up, 30 feet to get to that roof access. I think that somewhere in here would be a good place for maybe an internal stairway. I'll talk to him about it. I don't think Andy wants that, but I don't know. It seems to me like it might not be a bad thing to have interior access to that roof. I mean, if you really need to get up there for some reason, I don't know what that reason might be, that could be beneficial. Now, my house is a really tall house, and I have a stair. Well, I've actually got a 4th floor in my house, and it's a utility room, but I've got one of those pull-down stairways, ladders, that I pull down in a hall, and I can climb up there. And then when I get up into that room, I also have a hatch I can get on the roof with. So if I need to get onto the roof of my house, I can. Actually, if I had a fire in my house and I needed to, I don't want to do this, so let me tell you, but I could climb up to that 4th floor, throw a rope over. I have a rope up in the top of the house, and I could climb down, if there was a fire, and it cut access off to the lower floors. So, I don't know. I'll talk to him about it. So I have one more thing to say about this Hardyplank. I find that also having a chisel, not a cold chisel, but a chisel. A cold chisel would work, but this is a nice 2-inch chisel. It's dull now, but sharp enough to clean it up. You can kind of sand with it, and you can get down and hammer in the edges and make your edges really nice. So, and one more thing, if I can do this. This is the end of the day. I'm just finished up for the day, and I probably won't be filming for a while, so let me just show you what I've finished doing and building. So I got my siding all done in here to above the level of the scaffolding. So I've So I'm ready to begin up there. So you can see that my siding is where I can work on it. It is so muddy around here, I can't really do much without putting boards down. I just tripped. It was water here the last few days. It was water in that depression for probably 2 weeks. Water and ice, depending on, the temperature. But this is finally starting to melt out. Anyway, I just wanted to yeah. Let me jump out here and get a longer angled shot. So, yeah, there we go. It's looking pretty good. We're getting there. Y'all take care.